Hi, how you guys doing today? I'm Stephen Whitney, and this is the Doing Life Together channel. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today, and I have Ben Gowell here today with us, and I'm just excited to talk with him, chat with him about worship leading and COVID-19, and we're gonna get into some gear later. But I'm excited to talk with Ben today. And Ben, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Stephen. Good to be with you, man. Happy to be here. Coming to you from somewhat cold Arizona, which is unusual. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's like, yeah, it's chilly, which we rarely say that. So temps dropped. I'm wearing my flannel today. I'm staying warm, and I'm happy to be with you, man.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. So Ben, for the people that don't know, more, so you're from Arizona, and what church do you tend to, and how long have you been going there?
Well, I do live in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm not originally from here. I'm actually originally
Oh,
from Kalamazoo, Michigan.
oh wow.
Lived in Michigan, lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota for a number of years, but I've been here in Phoenix for the past 10 years. And I'm on staff at a church called CCV, Christ Church to the Valley here, multi-campus church in the Phoenix metro area.
Wow. So and typically Arizona is pretty warm, I'm assuming.
Yeah, man, it's like one of the hottest places you can imagine. Actually, this summer we had a record hot summer with
Really?
I can't remember, I don't know how many days over 100 degrees. So yeah, moved. My wife and I moved from Minneapolis to Phoenix 10 years ago. It was like the most polar opposite move we could have made. Like the coldest of winters to the hottest of summers, but we love it, man. It's the desert, and we love the city. And yeah, it's been home now for a decade for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, my dad wants to go to our stepdad wants to go to Arizona. He wants to see the all the canyons and stuff. But
Yeah, it's a beautiful
anyways,
state. It's a really beautiful state. I mean, the Grand Canyon's out here, and people think of Arizona, they just think of desert, but there's actually mountains and
yeah,
all kinds of great landscapes. So
I almost said mountains, but I didn't want to. I didn't, I wasn't sure. But yeah, Arizona sounds like a cool place to definitely be in. I was gonna ask, is what do you think, is Texas or Arizona hotter?
oh, Arizona is. Yeah, Arizona is. I mean, Texas has some heat too, but Arizona is tough to beat
Oh wow.
in that regard. Arizona's a little drier. I mean, West Texas is dry, but East Texas, you got some. I don't know. They're both hot, man. But I think Arizona takes the cake.
Well, Ben, so as you know, this year has been I think a year of different emotions for everybody, Christian, non-Christians. It's been really crazy. So one of my questions I wanted to ask with COVID-19 going on, um, how how has it affected you personally, like family life, church life, and that sort of aspect?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this year has been crazy for a lot of people, man.
Yeah,
I mean, when COVID hit, it affected all of us in so many different ways. Personally, um, it was a I've had a lot of personal things transpire this year, some loss in my family
sorry to
and
hear
some
that.
different things. So it's been a challenging year. COVID for me personally and for our family, we had a lot of time together during the quarantine. I was working
Yeah.
from home, as many were during especially the early months of this year.
Oh yeah.
And so it was in some senses that was we had some great times of togetherness as a family that we wouldn't have otherwise had, for which I'm really grateful.
Yeah.
Um, I actually just recovered from having COVID a
Oh
couple weeks
wow.
back, so actually just got it recently, and I'm happy to be fully recovered. So personally, there have been some challenges, but also some real great silver linings in time together with my family. As far as our church, like many other churches, we've had to navigate the waters of, for a time, holding off on in-person services and moving everything to online.
Yeah.
We know that the church doesn't ever close,
Hmm.
but we had to look at ways to engage people with physical distancing in place, and so we did a lot of meeting and talking and trying to prayerfully discern what the best way forward was. And so for a season there, we were online only, with worship and with the message, and even with people engaging in groups, we were engaging in with Zoom software just to try to keep people connected. And it was a challenge, man, but really thankful for a great team who stepped up and was innovative. And we were able to carry on through that season.
Yeah.
Our church did start to meet in person again in August. The numbers in Arizona dropped significantly after the month of June. So we kind of, prayerfully led up to our church opening back again in person on our campuses, as well as continuing online for those who weren't ready to come back and who still aren't ready to come back. There are some.
Yeah.
And so we kind of see it as two lanes moving in the same direction. Now that we have in person, we have, of course, physical distancing in place, asking that people wear masks, limited capacity in our rooms. It's a little different, but we're thankful to be meeting together again in person in community with those precautions in place, and still trying to do our very best to engage people who are online, either who are new or who are just more comfortable attending service and connecting online right now. We're in full support of that, especially for those who are in a category of being most vulnerable, or who just aren't ready to come back in person. That's totally fine. So we're wanting to really connect with and continue to serve our church well across multiple platforms. And one of the positive things I think that this season there's been a lot of challenges, both as a church and individually, and for a lot of people with their work, and with connection with other people. There's a lot of statistics that tell us that mental health troubles are up in this season. Addiction issues, dealing with addiction and depression, which is not a surprise given the lack of connectedness and some of the hardship people has been through. So I think this has been a season that's really challenged us to remember that the church is not a building or a service. The church is all of us as people, being aware of the needs around us and paying attention to the relationships, our neighborhoods. What can we do to serve? What can we do to pray for people? What can we do to connect with people and show them kindness in this season? My hope is that whenever we fully come out of this COVID-19 season, that we'll remember that lesson, that this season maybe resurfaced for us, that, hey, the church is you, the church is me, being the hands and feet of Jesus. And that as we have services again, as we meet at our campuses, it's great, but let's not have that take the place of you and I being the local church.
Of course. Yeah. I feel like, it's funny you say it, this though. For a long time, I used to go to this. I was in one church. I'm going to be 29 this year, and I was there all my life up till last October. And there was always felt like this. And I said it all the time. I always felt like this, like a division, and it's like I never understood it, and I still don't. And I feel like, in this season especially, God's like, hey guys, like it's okay to work together. It's not, where some churches around the area, they don't want to work together because denomination issues, or whatever. And the church, I feel like, we should definitely be giving a helping hand to different churches, or helping out, if there's an organization trying to help out each week. Like, I'm going to be connecting with my church with a local group where I live, and they're giving out food and clothes and that type of thing. And I feel like in the season, I feel like God's unraveling, like, hey, it's not the same. Like, we're not supposed to not work together. We're supposed to be doing life together, no pun intended, but we're supposed to be doing things together and helping other people, whether it's going over to the house, just checking up on them, maybe dropping off food, or even playing a song or two outside, to make it feel normal, where it's not just online, which is a whole different experience than in person. But no, I really enjoyed what you were saying.
Well, it has been a great season. We've seen an increase in unity of the local church, I think, and hopefully we've seen that around the country and around the world. We've certainly seen it in Phoenix, a desire to, hey, let's make sure that our differences don't divide us. We're one, we're all the Church of Jesus Christ. So what can we do to serve the needs of the people in our city better? And we have seen
Yeah.
some great things through the season of churches coming together and working together
Yeah.
to really serve their cities. That's been awesome to see, and I pray it continues.
No, me too. And I think that's when I hear the unity, it brings joy to me because um, God never wanted us apart. Yeah, they're different churches, different callings. But and I don't think it was intended, but obviously that's the way it is. Obviously, we can't, everyone can't go to one church because that'd be a long drive for everybody. But, um, but anyways, so I want to get into, um, uh, so how long have you been married? That was one of my questions I wanted to ask. Yeah.
I've been married to my wife for 18 years.
Yeah. Congratulations.
And yeah, it's been great. Her name's Jen. We've got two beautiful kids, 12 and 9, a 12-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy.
Wow.
Yeah, been married for 18 years to my best friend, and I wouldn't change a thing about it.
So let me ask you a question. So for you being a musician, um, so when you're juggling family life and I hate saying musician life because I look at you as more of a worship leader. But when you're doing that touring, how when you're juggling that, how hard or easy or difficult can that be sometimes when you're on the road? And obviously you want to be home with your kids, but obviously you're going out to wherever that is. You know.
Yeah, well, through my 20s, Stephen, is when I had the heaviest time of touring
Yeah.
in my life. And it was kind of during our first years of marriage. My wife was incredibly supportive and patient as
Yeah.
I traveled and kind of went from one tour to the next, one city to the next. I was having fun. I enjoyed it. I was working with people who I loved. And like you said, leading people in worship and seeing
Yeah.
new places. I
Hmm.
really, it was a really fulfilling season of my life. But um, my wife, it took her really being as supportive as she was. I wouldn't have been able to do it without her support.
Yeah.
So she was incredible through that season. Wasn't perfect. We had to work through things. Me being out, my schedule. I had to learn to communicate better, get in front of scheduling, so we were on the
Yeah.
same page. I had a lot of growth areas with that, but again, incredibly patient and supportive wife. When we did start to have kids, it became that much harder because we didn't have family in Minnesota. We both moved out to Minnesota to go to college, and then
Oh, okay.
started our adult life as a married couple there without family who lived close by. So when we started to have kids, it just became apparent that it was time to bring the full time for us. For
Yeah.
us, it was time to shortly thereafter start to bring the full time touring lifestyle to a close because I didn't want to miss being a present father and husband. And there's different people who juggle that on the road who have kids, and that's great.
Yeah.
And I did to a certain extent after we had kids, but I just knew, I was looking to be home more with my kids and with my wife, who'd been incredible through that season where I was touring more full time, and moved to traveling more part time, focusing more on teaching and investing in other teams,
Yeah.
as well as kind of serving the local church
Hmm.
more full time in a way that I could be home with my family more often.
Nice. Now, how would you and I think you to a degree answered it, but how would you encourage someone that's I guess starting to tour or has been touring? What would you encourage them to do if they're married with kids? Like from your experience.
Wow. I mean, if they're married with kids, I would encourage them to um, really prioritize what touring they're doing.
Hmm.
So like maybe there's some dates that it doesn't really it doesn't pay off as it were. Maybe you prioritize some dates where I don't know, some things become things that you potentially turn down as a start. Like
Yeah.
maybe you don't say yes to everything, so that you can make sure that you're having enough energy
Yeah.
to prioritize your family at home. That was a process for me too, of just like I have to prioritize what things I'm going to take and travel for. I can't. Used to be early on, just take everything. I'll say yes to everything because I want to just get connected and have a lot of experience.
Yeah,
Over time, I had to really prioritize what I would say yes to, and I would encourage people to check in every day with their spouse and their kids.
of
Make that a
course.
priority. That we have there's no excuses not to be checking in regularly. We have phones and FaceTime and
Of course.
Zoom and all this stuff.
Oh
So just
yeah.
just like staying in touch with your family,
Yeah.
staying relationally connected. You can easily get disconnected on the road, and you can be, you're having the time of your life playing and spending time with friends and playing music that you can forget about your family. So just make sure that you're staying connected to them, and kind of tucking your kids in bed, as it were, and praying with them, and just staying in touch with them, your family is huge. And I think staying connected to people back where you live is important too. Staying accountable to people, staying grounded
Yeah, of
with some
course.
relationships that aren't just on the road. So you kind of, you have a sense of grounding to your life beyond just your family, but also in your relationships as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about it's funny. Every time like I might take a walk or go through the garbage out, my daughter comes zooming to the door and daddy, where are you going? And I'm like, I'll be right back, I
Right,
promise.
right, right.
um yeah, but no, I love having kids. Um so one of my next questions was, so how long have you been playing guitar, and how has the journey been for you since you've been playing guitar?
How has the journey been? Is that what you
Yeah, like
said?
yeah, how has the journey been for you when you since you've been playing?
It's been amazing. I've loved it. I started playing in junior high school. Picked up my older brother's PV electric guitar for the first time that I found out in the garage. And I started learning Metallica riffs and practicing Green Day songs. And yeah, I started to write our own music. And then
Nice.
probably in early high school, I got invited to come in and play with the youth worship team.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that was about. I was like, I grew up going to church, but I was like playing rock music, man. And
Okay.
church music was not rock music. But I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come by and check it out. And so I brought in my big amp and my distortion pedal and my electric guitar, and like the song in front of me on the chart in front of me was like "As the Deer Pants for the Water."
Oh my goodness.
And I'm sure it was terrible. I had to figure out like what does it mean to play guitar in church, but it was incredible. I had a team of people and a youth ministry who allowed me some space to fail and to try.
Yeah.
And it's through that time I really grew a love not just for playing guitar, but for leading people in worship and being a part of that.
Yeah.
And I could share any number of different pieces of the journey along the way, but for the past 25 years, whatever it's been that I've been playing, it's a gift, man. Music
Yeah.
is a gift. I love the gift of music. I love using it to encourage people in the church.
Hmm.
I love learning and being curious about learning new things all along the way. Never feeling like I've arrived, but there's always more to be exposed to and to learn. And I love that process.
Yeah.
Try to stay in a mindset of being curious and enjoying the journey rather than looking for the destination. So
Yeah.
that's how I look at music. That's how I've looked at the journey of playing guitar, is just um, finding the joy in being stretched and
Yeah.
learning new things along the way. And I've had the privilege of playing music with a lot of gifted musicians and artists, for which I'll always be thankful for those experiences. And they've shaped me as a musician and an artist myself. So
Yeah.
I've loved it, man. In short, I mean, we could talk about any specific avenue, playing in the studio or live, or I went to college and studied music, where I learned a lot of great things, but also made a lot of great connections.
Yeah.
That opened some doors to just playing music more and more with more and more people, trying to work hard to learn new styles of music and stretch myself. So it's
Yeah.
it's been a blast, man. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's been amazing.
It's crazy. When I first started leading worship, it was just crazy listening to you because um, I was like, man, he's just really, really good. And I'm like, he holds back, and he doesn't. He knows when to let it loose a little bit, and he knows when to bring it back. Almost like when I was listening to I was listening to the video I mentioned to you earlier, how to play guitar with when you're with Paul, and when I was listening to it, and he did you're doing your name, and he did it the normal way, and then he did it like with the wah pedal and distortion and all that, and I'm like, that was cool too, but I understand why you did it the other way. You're trying to, as I guess Paul would say, is trying to fit the lead to the song and not just do whatever Ben wants to do. Ben's trying to fit what helps the song and not trying to do your own thing, which is awesome. And I think a lot of more people have been like that. Excuse me, but I've seen still a lot of people kind of do that same thing still, like what you were kind of doing. Um,
Well, I think the important part of that conversation, I mean, the part that still really resonates with me is I've always enjoyed the process of producing music
yeah,
and making music, and so I think, and I would encourage any musician. It's not just holding back or playing less, but it's having the mindset of a producer to serve the song or the
yeah,
style of music well.
hmm,
Sometimes that calls for really, really expressive guitar parts and a
yeah,
lot of creativity, and sometimes it's like, man, the guitar is sort of taking a background role in this song, and that's
yeah,
just fine. It
of
can take
course,
all kinds of different shapes and sizes. I guess I like to encourage musicians to think as holistically as possible. Think like a producer and not just a guitar player. Because
yeah,
if I'm thinking just like a guitar player, oftentimes I'm like, how much can I play? I'm not really listening to other people as well as maybe I could. And a
yeah,
producer is thinking of like the whole pizza pie, you know?
hmm,
I would never the comment of like, the power of restraint,
yeah,
like restraining yourself. I would never say that to like to make someone timid or to say hold back from playing great stuff.
hmm,
The way I would steer the conversation is like, just be listening to the other musicians around you
yeah,
and try to think holistically like a producer, and not just like a guitar player. I think if the whole band can do that, boy, the level of musical excellence oftentimes goes up a lot because you're responding to each other. Music is like a conversation between musicians, and the more you think like a holistic producer, the more you kind of create spaces, and then you speak. And we're not talking over each other. We're trying to create space
yeah,
for each other. Now I'm going to really make a statement on this instrument, and so you're ebbing and flowing, and the instruments are working together. And I think a lot of the music I enjoy listening to, you can get a sense of that taste in the arrangement being very intentional.
yeah. It's, I mean, and this is not to toot your own horn or to boast you, but you're very iconic. I mean, Hosanna, Praises Rising, Today is the Day, Loved by You. Uh, um, trying to think, I can't think of the other. I mean, Our God Saves. I mean, I can go on. And they're all very different mountains. They're all very different mountains as you're going up and down with the songs, and they're awesome. I think one of my favorites, and I love them all. Definitely one of my top five songs. Definitely hearing you is "Loved by You" because I've never saw you on an acoustic guitar playing lead, and that was really tasteful and really cool on that song, and that was very different from what I was used to hearing as I was listening through different worship music, and that was just really amazing to like, oh wow, you can actually kind of do something similar. I don't know if you necessarily want to call it a lead. I guess maybe it was a different chord improv, but it was really cool to
Okay.
listen to.
Cool. Yeah, I love the process of trying to reach for something creative in whatever music I'm making. Trying to not just phone it in, but I think always one of the challenges in the studio is you're trying to reach for something new, a new way
Yeah.
of expressing on your instrument.
Hmm.
So yeah, I love that process. And boy, I mean, I've fallen on my face plenty of times reaching for something like, no, it's not quite the right thing, or that's not really working. Learned a lot through the years just about um, creative contribution and how to make how to make good creative contributions to music. That's part of the joy of discovery. And so I do love the process in the studio of trying to take different instruments or different voicings and try to not just default to one position or one instrument. I like the variety.
And I saw you doing that on the your Mercy album with Paul, and that was really cool. It
Yeah, I
was
think I played my lap steel a lot on that album.
Yeah, you did. It was I was listening and I was like, wow. I was like, this is it's a little new style kind of going on for all you guys that were there playing, especially for you and Paul. It was different but not, and it was cool. I was like, wow, that's interesting. I never thought of this like that, or playing this song like that. And like I said, I really enjoy listening to you because, like I said, you're very tasteful with your guitar playing. So yeah. So one of my questions that I did want to ask was, so how did you and Paul Balash meet up? How did you guys meet? Like where how did that all come about? Out of, out of
We met
curiosity.
through a mutual friend of ours named Glenn Pierce.
Okay.
Glenn is a great guitar player who I looked up to a lot in high school and college,
Hmm.
and had the privilege of meeting in college. Somebody connected us just through email that knew Glenn, and so I reached out to him, and Glenn was kind enough to kind of talk gear with me and go back and forth on questions I would have as a young player. And and Glenn played for a lot of artists. He played for Paul and a number of different worship artists, worship leaders during that time. I just loved his playing. And so, kind of out of the blue, after college, he just said, "Hey, I just got asked to go on a tour, and there's some dates with this worship leader named Paul Balash that I couldn't do, and I recommended you to go on them. Would you take a look at the dates?" And so I was like, "Yeah, of course I will." And so did a date with Paul back in, this is 2000, beginning of 2003 or
Oh wow.
2002.
Yeah.
Flew down to Florida. I mean, I learned Paul's music, got in touch with him, and learned all the songs, and then
Yeah.
flew to Florida for a conference and played and met him, and it went well. And that started the beginning of a now 17-year relationship that we have, making many albums and touring the world together. And he's a dear brother and friend, and someone I respect greatly. And yeah, he's a brother for life. But Glenn introduced us in the first place and got us connected.
That's yeah, that's pretty crazy. It's crazy when you meet people and you get connected with other people you never thought of. I've definitely been there. And my second half to the question too is how has Paul impacted your life as maybe a friend or mentor or whatever?
Oh, and in many ways. I mean, I've gleaned so much from Paul through the years. I've always loved, he's got a great enthusiasm for music and for life, and he's given me the gift of being able to travel with him and learn from him as a worship leader. I love that Paul is always trying to not be about the show, but just trying to connect with people,
Yeah.
lead them authentically in worship. He's always pushing for, like, let's just keep it real. Let's keep it like authentic. Let's break down this wall or this barrier between the stage and the seats or the people who come. And I love that. I love that push for, like, that push for authenticity. He's always inspired me that way.
Mm-hmm.
He's relentless in his pursuit of the craft of songwriting and trying to put prayers to music
Yeah.
and to make them singable for the local church. I mean, I've been inspired by him that way.
Yeah.
He's a great dad, husband. I he's a dear brother. I mean, I've loved that he has a heart to teach people. One of the things that I got to do with him pretty early on that I didn't know I was going to be doing was teaching workshops for local church team members. And so it was like the week before we were going to do a conference, he's like, "Oh, by the way, you'll have to teach a couple different electric guitar clinics and a band workshop for 4 hours."
How did you feel about that when you heard
I've never done any of that, so it was kind of trial by fire to say, okay, what would I teach? and I sort of fumbled into it, I'm sure, and kind of fumbled my way through it. But eventually I got to the point where I felt very comfortable
Yeah.
teaching and kind of imparting some things to worship teams. And I love that that was part of his heart. It's been, he was one of the first guys doing that for local churches, is like, I don't just want to come in and do a night of worship. We'll come do that, but I'd love to spend a day with your teams to hopefully leave an investment or something
Yeah.
that local church teams can take away and put into practice on their worship teams and in their services. So I loved his heart for that. And again, our families are super close. I mean, he's a dear brother for life. So very, very grateful for the impact he's had on me and our friendship.
Yeah, he wanted to make people feel that they were really, I guess, really getting his heart and I don't know if I want to say um, necessarily money's worth, but he really wanted to, it was more than that. He wanted to make people feel like, hey, I'm not just here to come for a concert. It's not about that. It's about helping growing the next generation or whatever his thought and mind was. I'm assuming it was along those lines. Um, yeah, that's
Yeah, he
that's
always made it a priority to connect with people and to listen and to serve, to serve the people who would come.
yeah.
Um, yep, he always made the time for people. Always does.
Yeah, it's I could definitely see that for sure. So one of my next questions is so the church that you go to now, are you the worship director or pastor or one of the worship leaders, or are you just more sitting in the I think at one point I remember hearing that you were the worship leader at the church you were going to at that point in time. I can't remember how long ago that was, but just out of curiosity.
Yeah. Yep. I've worn a few different hats here at the church. Led our music department and led worship for a number of years.
Yeah.
Um, I'm currently one of our executive pastors. I lead several different teams: our worship department, production, and a lot of our arts areas, our
Hmm.
marketing, our artistic side, as well as our adult ministry and our next gen ministry. So I
Okay.
kind of in a season now where I still love leading worship.
Yeah.
I love being involved creatively, but a lot of my responsibilities at the church here are kind of overseeing and serving and supporting large ministries within our church and our staff teams.
Nice.
Um, so kind of investing in those leaders who are have large teams of their own. So it's been a joy. It's been something where I continue to stay in touch with the music and artist side of me, but there's a lot of other
Yeah.
things that go on week to week too that I'm leading in a different way in this season and love it.
So when you lead different or help out different departments, so it's part of it is that I'm assuming the music department or maybe I don't know a ministry department helping out people that are in need. Is it different departments? Is that what you're saying that you help out?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
cool.
Yep. So yeah, it's a large staff. It's a big
Yeah.
church, and so we have about 450 staff at the church, full time and part.
Only 450, huh?
It's a large, pretty large church staff. So, yeah, it's a big staff team. So in this season, steward a
Yeah.
lot of our creative teams and some of our ministry teams,
Okay.
make sure that we're working together as effectively as possible, in unity, departments working together, making an impact. So
Hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of a lot of different things associated with that, but it's kind of been a change in recent years to a little more leadership and stewarding of teams rather than just leading worship, which I still love to do. We
Nice.
have a big worship department. We have a lot of worship leaders
Yeah.
here. We have a guy named Jordan who leads our worship department
Yeah.
specifically now, and
Mhm.
it's great.
Nice. So, and when you're in that hat, when you're in that role, so how do you, I don't know, is it a different mind frame when, and I guess maybe encouraging others when you're doing the role that you're doing to help out different departments? Is it a different mind frame of serving? Because obviously it's different. Obviously, going from worship leader to now serving in a different capacity. Um, which is awesome. And that's awesome to show. Cause sometimes I know when people sometimes look at, maybe like a Paul Blosh, Michael W. Smith, or whatever. They're known for they're the worship leader, which is nothing wrong with that, or the worship pastor. But obviously, you're doing more than that. I'm not saying that those guys don't, but what I'm saying is that um, people are, I guess, looking at you in a little different light. So maybe mindsets are different of how to, obviously, from leading worship to helping out different ministries. Obviously, how is that? Um, how do you I guess how do you flip the switch when you need to?
Flip the switch to, I
Like,
mean,
sorry, flip the switch to, like, when flipping the switch meaning like going from worship leader to like going to like a whole different department, because sometimes obviously, like, if you're trying to help out I don't know, a ministry that's in need, like you're going on the streets, and maybe that person, you're ministering to people on the streets that need food or clothes or whatever.
yeah. Well, yeah, I don't, obviously there's different, I see it all as working together. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of my role is like, it's not that I'm away from the worship department. I just see
Yeah.
like, man, as we foster and cultivate
Hmm.
authentic worship here as a part of our church, that's a part of the picture. And, you know, our production and some of our other arts teams working closely together,
Yeah.
whether it's creating visual content or marketing things, or whether it's ministering in the street doing missions. I mean, I
Yeah.
love it. There are, I've had to kind of expand my view and learn a lot in this season
Yeah.
on the different ministries of our church. And I love seeing the big picture of it all coming together and working together. I
Yeah.
love seeing teams work together to do things that they couldn't do just on their own. So a lot of the
Hmm.
events we do, whether it's a service or a missions trip or different things, we have multiple teams that, like, we need worship, we need good production, we need to market for it, we need to have our ministry leaders ready for
Hmm.
follow up. There's usually a lot of things that are working in tandem, and one thing I love about the role that I'm in now is just kind of expanding my view and helping our leaders reach their potential with their teams and work together in unity
Yeah.
to do something that we couldn't do on our own. So
And that's awesome, because I firmly believe in everything that you're saying, and some people say it. It's another thing of doing it, and it's just awesome to see you doing that, and that's really awesome. Um,
yeah,
I
it's a
think
privilege. I feel very privileged to do it.
No, yeah, no, it is a privilege, and I think sometimes in life, my friend was saying, leading worship and wanting to write songs and change this and that and help the worship scene or whatever is great, but he was like, sometimes we take that stuff for granted, and it's I think it is easy to take those things for granted, um, very very easily, um, but so I think to wrap this up with this section, because I'd like to get into a little bit of a gear before I get off. Um, how would you encourage a young, or whatever, just a husband in general, just say husbands in general, fathers, worship leaders, how would you encourage them with COVID-19 going on, juggling, you know, obviously COVID-19 makes a lot of things more difficult with going to church, uh, family time, and sometimes the things are tough because you know um, uh, maybe things are tough at home, and you're trying to figure things out, because even though you said in the season people are I think certain things are coming out that maybe weren't before, personally with in their life. How would you encourage worship leaders to keep their head above the waters right now? um, you know Bible verse, or just your personal experience, and obviously, and it's crazy to think. I was just talking to my mom. COVID-19 will be almost a year, and was it February? So I mean, that's crazy. That's been. It feels like a long year, but now it feels like it's almost going quick. Now, it's a bit
Uh-huh.
insane.
Yeah, man. I mean, I encourage people just to stay faithful where you are. Stay plugged into community, stay plugged into the source of strength, which is, which we believe is God and his word. Like stay plugged in
Yeah.
when things feel overwhelming. Just cast your cares on God. Like
Mhm.
continue to actively cast your cares on him and to take things a step at a time. For many people where this has been a really challenging year and it just seems too overwhelming to carry on your own. The good news is we're promised in God's word we don't have to carry it on our own. It tells us to cast our cares upon him because he cares for us, and to trust in him with all of our heart and not to lean on our own understanding or our own surroundings.
Yeah.
Just to acknowledge him. So just stay strong in your faith, stay plugged into community, keep leaning into your family, investing in those relationships. There's some things that COVID has created a big challenge for, but look for the opportunities there too. There's opportunities this season has presented,
Yeah.
whether it's having more FaceTime with people that you love,
Yeah.
having to work from home, being with your kids more. And there's all kinds of opportunities that you have in front of you too, that you can take advantage of. And I just encourage people to not lose heart, but to see those opportunities that they have in front of them, and to be faithful, faithful in their families, faithful in their communities, and trust
Yeah.
that God's in control, and to take it one day at a time.
Yeah. No, of course. And
Trust He's got you.
no, that's no, that's a really good statement, and I think we can all um, definitely learn from that statement. Um, so switching gears before I think we wrap things up, getting into some gear, because my friend from Oregon says you're the tone master too. um, what is your like your top three guitars right now? I've seen you play multiple different guitars over your over the years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough to say my top three ever because I have a number of different guitars that I pull on for different sounds or different studio. I have a Duesenberg Fullerton CC, a big white hollow body that I like a lot, that I play a lot,
Nice.
especially when I'm leading worship.
Yeah.
I really love that guitar. I have a 68 custom shop Fender Strat that I love a lot. I've been playing that guitar a lot too.
Nice.
And then I have a Riggio Telecaster by a company called Riggio. A guy named Joe Riggio makes them. It's a custom Tele,
Okay.
but it's great. I love the sound of that guitar. I love the
Nice.
pickups. I use it pretty often. So probably my Tele, my Strat, and my Duesenberg CC, Fullerton CC. I've got a Gretsch Silver Falcon that I love a lot too, that I still play frequently. I've got a Gretsch Tennessee Rose. Yeah, I don't know. Those are a
I
few of my
laugh because
favorites,
I've
right?
probably seen all these guitars in one video or
Yeah, the
another.
Tennessee Rose is one that I played a lot through those years with Paul, and I still have with me. I'll never get rid of that guitar. I've used it on so many projects and for so many tours. So yeah, Gretsch Tennessee Rose is great.
Yeah. No, that's man, those are awesome guitars. So so what does your rig normally look like lately? What does it normally look like?
It depends. I mean, one of those guitars into my pedal board, which I've got, which is always, constantly evolving just a little bit here and there. I got a pedal board with all kinds of different pedals on it. And then I'll
Mhm.
go out to either one of my amps that I love playing through
Yeah.
or a Kemper. We use Kempers at our church,
Okay,
and
cool.
sometimes I'll travel with a Kemper. The sounds have gotten quite good, and the amp modeling technology's come a long ways from the early years, where it's nice and easy and portable. But
Yeah.
I still love using my old amps too. I got a matchless DC30 and a Morgan uh, Dual 40 that I like a lot, a Vox AC30. So I still like firing up the tube amps. I don't like carrying them as much anymore. Um, I guess I never really liked carrying them, but
I was gonna say
uh,
it's probably a load on the back after after a while.
yeah, but I love using them in the studio. I just
Yeah,
love firing up the amps, and I just like the way they work. I mean, I
of course.
studied tube amps for years, and just for a long time you couldn't beat the sound of it. You couldn't come close to the sound of
Oh
them.
yeah.
And now the digital technology with the Kempers or whatever else has come a long ways where you can really get great tones out of that
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
But I'll never sell my amps. I still love using those too. So guitar, pedal board, and then usually one or two amps. Two amps if I'm running stereo and want to mic them up that way.
So what is your I'm probably gonna know this question because I've seen it before, pictures and video. But what's like your go-to if you were to like if you had three pedals? Like, what's your go-to like three pedals? Like, if you absolutely like it wasn't you can only bring three pedals with you. What would those?
Yeah. Well, I'd probably bring my, um, my JHS double barrel, which is an overdrive, which has two
Yeah.
different channels on it, and my Strymon timeline delay,
Okay.
and probably my volume pedal.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay. Yeah.
I picked those three.
I was expecting to hear reverb, but you could get reverb on the amp if, depending on what you're using. So yeah.
Assuming I don't have to use a tuner as one of the three, because I
Well,
always
I
want.
was gonna say we'll count the tuner, but I mean
Thanks.
it's hard to count. It's kind of hard to count the tuner because you always kind of have to have a tuner.
Right,
um,
right.
but you did ask one of the questions, but I'm gonna kind of I want to get a little bit into more of your thoughts, a little bit more. So obviously, amp modeling has definitely grown a long way, like from the like when you were playing in, like I said, that one video again with Paul, and you were using the XT Live, and you were talking about, hey, you may not be able to have tube amp. Like, how much um um how much have you seen it grown? Like overdrives and all those effects, like overdrives, compression, delays, reverbs, and then the amp modeling, like in the line 6, the Kemper. I mean, gosh, there's what the X effects now.
Oh, I know there's a lot of them. I haven't even kept up with all. I haven't been able to keep up with all of them through the years. I know there's a lot of them. I've seen the technology just get better and better, sounding better and better.
Yeah,
Again, the Kemper is one that people turn me on, like some of my guitar player friends and
yeah,
other musicians. You got to check this out.
hmm,
And I think it sounds really good. I think there's good models on it. I mean,
yeah,
I still don't generally like things with lots of buttons and presets and banks, because
yeah,
I like just turning one knob and knowing what I'm going to get. I like old analog pedals still.
yeah,
I still prefer a little more like old school analog,
hmm,
but I think the Kempers are great. I'm sure there's a lot of other great stuff like the Helix and whatever else is out
yeah,
there that I'm sure is great. I think the only danger is like some of those tools are so powerful, it can kind of be like a black hole. Like, where do I just need to get a basic, like, good guitar tone. And sometimes the multi-effect things, they're so powerful. We're trying to do a little, maybe a little too much with them,
yeah,
where the sounds are weird or so spaced out that it's like, so it's fine. I just encourage people, whatever effect setup you use, start with some good foundational tones, like
yeah,
strip it back
hmm,
from like extensive presets,
yeah.
and build progressively from a strong foundation. Sometimes the multi-effect stuff, it can be hard to navigate some of that.
No,
Uh,
definitely, and it's been a learning curve for me because like my toughest thing, especially is me. I'm not an electric guitar player per se. I'll play it,
yeah,
but I was trying to justify the me spending like a lot of money with having kids and a wife,
yeah,
so I ended up buying the Pod Go. It is limiting, but the Pod Go has the same thing, like it's like the Helix sound in it. So I was like, it's
yeah,
only 450. I said it'll be a learning curve, and
yeah.
honestly, I can't. It's like, and I still love the amps and pedals. But when I play that, I'm like, man, it sounds so good and I'm like, huh? I'm like, why is this 450?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. The technology's come a long ways in recent years, man. So
Yeah,
it's whatever. I always encourage people to try out a lot of different things, and then whatever inspires you to want to play the instrument more and pulls out ideas
yeah.
and thoughts out of you, go that direction. That's probably a good fit for you.
No, of course. Well, Ben, it was good to have you on doing life together, and thank you so much for taking your time. And yeah, guys, this is Ben Gowell, and just
Yeah.
appreciate you, Ben. And yeah, guys, we'll see you in the next one. God bless you, and have a blessed day.
My pleasure. All the